Two names, one dream. Could Mohammed Kudus and Senesi be Chelsea's next big signings? If you have been following Chelsea this season, you already know it has been a roller coaster. Some good results, some frustrating ones, and a squad that still feels like it needs a few more pieces to really click. But what if two of those missing pieces are already being identified? What if the club is already working behind the scenes to bring in exactly the right profiles? According to recent transfer reports, Chelsea are interested in two players who could make a real difference. One is Mohammed Kudus, a winger currently at Tottenham Hotspur. The other is Senesi, a central defender playing for AFC Bournemouth. These two names might not be talked about as loudly as some of the bigger signings Chelsea have made in recent years, but when you dig into the details, you start to see why the club might be very serious about both of them. So let us break it all down. Who are these players? Why does Chelsea want them? And what would they actually bring to Stamford Bridge? Let us start with Mohammed Kudus. If the name Mohammed Kudus sounds familiar, it should. This is a player who has been on the radar of big clubs for a while now. He is 25 years old and plays as a right winger, though he is flexible enough to operate on either side or even in a central attacking role. That kind of versatility is something Chelsea have always valued, especially under managers who like to switch formations and keep opponents guessing. Kudus joined Tottenham from West Ham in July 2025 for a fee of around €63.8 million. That is a big number, and it tells you something important. West Ham did not let him go cheaply. Tottenham paid serious money because they believed in what he could do. His contract runs until 2031, so he is tied up for the long term on paper. But here is where the story gets interesting. Tottenham are currently fighting against relegation. That is a sentence that probably would have felt unthinkable a few years ago, but that is the reality right now. The club is in real trouble, and if they do go down to the Championship, it changes everything. Players who signed up to play in the Premier League, to compete in Europe, to be at a big club, suddenly find themselves in a very different situation. Is Mohammed Kudus going to want to play in the second division? The honest answer is probably not, and that is exactly why Chelsea and Manchester United are reportedly circling. In 19 Premier League appearances this season, Kudus has scored 2 goals and provided 6 assists. Those numbers might not jump off the page at first glance, but think about the context. He is playing in a team that is struggling, a team that is under huge pressure, a team where confidence across the whole squad is low. Getting 6 assists in that environment says a lot about his ability to still produce and create, even when things are difficult around him. His market value, according to Transfermarkt, is currently €55 million. That is lower than what Tottenham paid for him, which reflects the situation he is in. But for Chelsea, that could actually be an opportunity. If Tottenham do go down and Kudus becomes available, the fee might be more manageable than it would have been a year ago. He also has 46 international caps for Ghana with 13 goals. So this is not a player who is unproven at the highest level. He has been doing it for his country for years. Now here is the question you probably want answered. Does Chelsea actually need him? What would Kudus bring to Chelsea's attack? Think about Chelsea's attack right now. They have some quality players, some exciting young talent, and a few players who can play in wide positions. But do they have someone who can consistently beat a man one-on-one, who can play on either side, and who can create and score in equal measure? Someone who has the experience of doing it week in and week out in the Premier League. Kudus fits that description. He is the kind of player who makes defenders uncomfortable. He can go to the left, go to the right, cut inside, play the ball first time, or hold it up and wait for a teammate to arrive. That unpredictability is hard to coach into a player. You either have it or you do not. And Kudus clearly has it. Chelsea are said to be looking for more quality in their wing position specifically. That is a pretty clear signal. The coaching staff have identified that area as one that needs strengthening, and Kudus has been identified as someone who can provide it. Of course, the big question is how he would fit alongside the other attacking players already at the club. Would there be a clash of styles? Would he get enough game time to justify the investment? These are fair concerns, and any good Chelsea fan will be asking them. But here is the thing. A player who can play multiple positions across the front line is always useful. He does not have to be the only option. He can be the option that changes a game from the bench, or the option that comes in when someone is injured, or the option that starts depending on who Chelsea are playing that week. At 25, he is also at exactly the right age. He is not a teenager who might take a couple of seasons to adjust. He is not a player in his 30s who might have 2 or 3 good years left. He is right in the middle of his prime, and a 5-year contract, for example, would take him to 30. That is very good business if it works out. Now let us talk about Marco Senesi. Shifting to the other side of the pitch, let us talk about Marco Senesi. He is 28 years old and plays as a central defender for AFC Bournemouth. And here is the thing that makes this one really interesting from a Chelsea perspective. Senesi is going to be a free agent in the summer. That means no transfer fee, 0. Chelsea would only need to agree personal terms and a contract. Now, in the world of modern football, where clubs spend enormous amounts of money on defenders, getting a quality central defender for free is a genuine opportunity. And the reports suggest that Chelsea sees Senesi as exactly that. Why do Chelsea need a central defender? Because the report is quite direct about it. The club needs to replace players like Axel Disasi and Benoit Badiashile, who are apparently no longer part of the first team plans. Both of those players came to Chelsea with a lot of expectation, but for one reason or another, things have not worked out the way anyone hoped. They are not favoured by the management, and it seems like their time at the club may be coming to an end. When you lose 2 central defenders from your squad, even if they were not playing regularly, you need to bring bodies in. More importantly, you need to bring the right bodies in. You need players who are ready to step in and perform, not just fill a spot on the squad list. Who exactly is Marco Senesi? Senesi is an Argentine defender who has been playing in the Premier League with Bournemouth. He is strong, composed on the ball, and has built up a lot of experience at this level over the past few seasons. Bournemouth have been one of the more solid, lower half teams in the league in terms of defensive organisation, and Senesi has been a key part of that. He reads the game well. He is not the type of defender who is always throwing himself into reckless challenges. He is calm, he positions himself intelligently, and he is comfortable bringing the ball out from the back, which fits perfectly with how most top Premier League clubs want their defenders to play these days. At 28, he is also in his prime years as a defender. Defenders often peak later than outfield players. They need experience. They need to understand positioning. They need to know how to manage physical battles. Senesi has all of that now. And again, he is free. Chelsea would not need to spend a single euro on a transfer fee. The question is whether he has the quality to be a regular starter at a club with Chelsea's ambitions. That is a legitimate question. Bournemouth are a solid Premier League club, but they are not competing at the top end of the table. Would Senesi handle the pressure of playing for Chelsea, where every game feels like a must-win and every performance is scrutinised? That is something Chelsea's scouting staff will have done a lot of work on. But on paper, the profile makes a lot of sense. The free transfer angle is huge. Let us spend a moment on the free transfer angle because it really does matter. Chelsea have spent incredible amounts of money on transfers over the past few years. Some of those signings have worked out brilliantly. Others have been more disappointing. The club has had to be clever about managing financial fair play rules and making sure they stay on the right side of UEFA regulations. Signing Senesi for free would be smart business. It would add quality to the squad without adding a massive transfer fee to the books. The only cost would be wages, agent fees, and signing bonus. Compared to what Chelsea have spent on some defenders in recent years, this would be very reasonable. And if it does not work out for whatever reason, the risk is much lower. There is no €40 million or €50 million fee sitting on the balance sheet that needs to be justified. It is much easier to part ways with a player if the original investment was just wages. This kind of signing, done well, can be one of the best pieces of business a club does in a transfer window. Think of all the players who have arrived at big clubs on free transfers and gone on to become genuinely important players. It happens more often than people realize. Could both signings happen at the same time? Here is an interesting angle to consider. Could Chelsea actually bring in both Kudus and Senesi in the same transfer window? If both deals move forward, it would represent a pretty clear statement of intent. You are adding a dynamic attacking player on one side of the pitch and strengthening your defensive line on the other. You are addressing two different problems with two different types of signing. One costs money but brings real quality and versatility in attack. The other costs nothing and fills a genuine need in defense. That is actually quite balanced transfer window business. It is not just splashing money on big names. It is being strategic, identifying the gaps, and finding the right players to fill them. For the Chelsea community and supporters who follow every bit of transfer news closely, this should be an exciting prospect. Neither of these signings is the kind of flashy headline transfer that gets people talking on social media for days, but both of them are the kind of smart moves that quietly improve the squad and give the manager more options. And sometimes that is exactly what a team needs. Not another superstar, just the right players in the right positions. The Tottenham situation and what it means. We cannot talk about Kudus without spending a bit more time on the Tottenham situation, because it is central to everything. Tottenham fighting relegation is one of the biggest stories in English football right now. For a club of that size, with that history, to be in a relegation battle is genuinely shocking. And the ripple effects of what happens to them will be felt across the Premier League. If Tottenham go down, they will almost certainly have a fire sale. Players who cost tens of millions will become available. Some of those players will have clauses in their contracts that allow them to leave if the club is relegated. Others will simply make it clear that they want to go. Kudus joining Tottenham for €63.8 million just last summer from West Ham means he has only been there for less than a year. That is a very short spell. And if the club goes down, there is almost no scenario where he stays and plays in the Championship. He is too good, too young, and has too much to prove. Chelsea, knowing this and positioning themselves early, is exactly the kind of smart transfer thinking that good clubs do. You do not wait until the window opens and then scramble. You identify your targets months in advance. You build relationships. You make sure the player knows you are interested. And then when the time comes, you move quickly. Manchester United are also reportedly interested, so it is not like Chelsea have a clear run at him. There will be competition. But Chelsea have things to offer that United might not right now. If Chelsea are performing better, if they have a clearer project, if they can show Kudus a path to trophies in European football, that could make the difference. What do Chelsea fans make of all this? Here is where we want to hear from you. In the Chelsea fan community, opinions on transfer targets are always passionate and always varied. Some people will look at Kudus and see a player who cost Tottenham €63.8 million and think the price will be too high. Others will see someone who is 25, versatile, and available potentially at a reduced price because of Tottenham's situation, and think it is exactly the kind of deal Chelsea should be chasing. With Senesi, some fans might feel that a Bournemouth defender is not quite the level Chelsea should be operating at. Others will look at the free transfer aspect and say that it is brilliant business and exactly the kind of smart signing the club needs more of. What do you think? Would you want to see Kudus in a Chelsea shirt next season? Does Senesi feel like the right profile to come in and help steady the defense? These are real questions that deserve real discussion, and the answer probably depends on what you believe Chelsea's main priority should be in the coming transfer window. Looking at the bigger picture beyond these two specific players, these transfer links tell us something about the direction Chelsea are heading. The club is clearly thinking about balance. Bringing in a winger who can play across the front three gives the manager flexibility in attack. Bringing in a central defender who is strong and experienced gives the back line more stability. These are not glamour signings designed to sell shirts. These are functional, thoughtful additions that make the whole squad better. It also tells us that Chelsea are paying attention to value. Kudus at a potentially reduced fee because of Tottenham's situation. Senesi for free because his contract is up. Neither of these is a case of Chelsea throwing money around recklessly. Both are cases of identifying good players and finding a smart way to bring them in. That kind of approach, if it becomes consistent, is actually what builds a successful squad over time. You cannot just buy your way to a title every single summer. You have to be clever, you have to plan ahead, and you have to find players who fit what you are trying to do tactically. One more thing worth thinking about. There is one more angle to all of this that does not always get discussed in transfer news coverage. When you bring in new players, you also change the dynamic of the dressing room. You change the competition for places. You change the energy, and sometimes you change the mentality of the whole group. A player like Kudus, who has fought through a difficult season at a struggling club and still contributed, brings a certain resilience with him. He has not had it easy at Tottenham. Playing in a team fighting relegation is not fun, but he has kept his head down, kept performing, and kept adding assists and goals. That kind of character matters. Senesi, coming from Bournemouth, knows what it means to compete as a team that has to work hard for every point. He is not coming from a club where everything is easy. He has had to be consistent, professional, and reliable. Those are qualities that any dressing room benefits from. These are the kinds of things that do not show up in statistics, but make a real difference when you are deep into a season, playing 3 games a week and trying to win something. Wrapping it all up. So where does all of this leave us? Chelsea are in a position where 2 interesting transfer situations have presented themselves at the same time. Mohammed Kudus could become available because Tottenham may be relegated, and at 25 with his skill set, he would be a genuine upgrade in wide attacking areas. Senesi is going to be a free agent, and with 2 central defenders potentially on their way out, there is a clear space for him to fill. Neither of these is confirmed. Transfer reports at this stage of the season are always a mix of genuine intelligence and speculation. Things change, deals fall through, other clubs come in, players change their minds. That is just the nature of football transfers. But both of these pieces of information are interesting. Both make sense when you look at Chelsea's squad needs, and both suggest that the people running things at the club are thinking ahead and identifying the right profiles in the right positions. For the Chelsea community, this is what the transfer window build-up is all about. Discussing these names, debating the merits, sharing opinions, and imagining what the squad could look like next season if things go the right way. So keep your eyes on Mohammed Kudus every time Tottenham play between now and the end of the season. Watch how he performs under pressure. Watch how he handles a tough situation, because that will tell you a lot about whether he has what it takes to step into a Chelsea shirt and deliver. And keep an eye on Senesi too. When Bournemouth play, watch him defend. Watch how he communicates, how he positions himself, how he deals with the physical side of Premier League football. Because if the reports are right, you might be watching your club's next central defender in action. Football is built on moments like this. Players moving between clubs, new combinations forming, squads being reshaped. And sometimes the signings that seem like the quieter ones end up being the most important of all. Stay close to the Chelsea conversation, share your thoughts with your fellow fans, and remember that the summer is not that far away. The next chapter is being written right now.